Hey guys, Ty and Sky here. Just came across a really unique article. Just figured, we like to get involved about health topics in general, and so, when we're browsing the internet, we're like, oh, we got to find some articles that really do justice to the topic itself. So,
Yeah.
we came across this really interesting topic, and it's getting a lot of interest as of late. Essentially, we found this original article. We'll link it down below. It's from ABC. But it's essentially about a smart home device that in New Mexico that automatically called authorities during an assault.
The original article reported that a Google Home device called the authorities during an domestic dispute that was taking place.
The guy threatened his girlfriend and said, "Did you call the sheriffs?" And apparently, the speaker, having heard the "Did you call the sheriffs?" ended up calling 911.
Yeah.
And essentially, what happened is it picked up on the command, and then it started, it dialed 911, and then dispatch on the other side started hearing, the struggle going on. So it got really, they sent the SWAT team actually, and they ended up like negotiating with them for a while, and then it was a couple hours. There was a standoff, but they ended up just kind of luckily it was peacefully resolved. But it brought
Yes.
up a whole host of new questions about the role of technology in terms of alerting law enforcement and alerting and the other potentials of what it does because a lot of people were like, oh cool, I can order a pizza with it, but now it's like I can call the SWAT in on accident, or even
Yeah.
me just saying that just now, like said call the SWAT, and if I had an Echo device or something and it just started calling 911 because it's waiting for that. And that's kind of ridiculous because, then it's almost like, do we have to police our speech around devices? Because that's a whole next level thing,
Yeah.
Imagine having to be, you know, politically correct with your Echo.
Or yeah,
Like,
watching your language with a device that you kind of invite into your house. You make the choice to purchase this device and bring it into your house. And I guess in this situation, they were house sitting for somebody that made the choice to bring this device into their house. But I guess the argument has been made on the other side that had the device not been in the house and reacted to that question that was asked about, did you call the sheriffs? Would this have been peacefully resolved? Or would this have continued to escalate and further injury happen to the young lady that was involved?
it's great that this happened because it probably saved her life, like more than likely because already in a situation, the guy pulled out a gun. Um, But is it? I don't know. It's just kind of weird to think that if I'm starting to sing certain songs out loud, like I shot the sheriff, but I didn't, and like just imagine singing something like that, and then just certain words triggering certain responses.
So if we think about this as a health issue and we approach kind of what the Alexa, or allegedly the Alexa or smart home device, did in this case in preventing, injury, in helping to solve, well, not solve, but helping to kind of alleviate what could have been a worse health issue in that case, a worse injury
Yeah, it definitely
befalling that
definitely
person.
resolved it for sure.
How much how much do we want to allow devices or companies that are putting these devices in our home to tread on our privacy in that way if it ultimately offers a health benefit? So if we were looking at it from that perspective, domestic violence, or let's say that we have one of these home devices, we put it in the home of maybe one of our parents or grandparents
Oh yeah.
who
Oh
might have
gosh.
some form of dementia or maybe early Alzheimer's. And this device is kind of able to listen in when they use the trigger word. So we have to put that out. These devices typically record when whatever trigger word is used. So it could be Alexa, it could be OK Google, Hey Google, or anything that sounds like that. Lexus, or anything like that that's close, and it will set this off. So I guess if you have one of
So even
these,
talking about a Lexus car, for example, would just
yes,
get
followed by a command. And I know with the Echo Dot, and this is kind of pulling it slightly different direction, but there's a feature where you can drop in on other Echo Dots as long as they are set to be able to allow you to drop in on them. So I can queue up an Echo Dot in my den to, for instance, drop in on the Echo Dot in the basement office or something like that if I want to use it like an intercom system in the home. But you can also do that between homes. So how much would that potentially, could that help caregivers keep elderly patients in their homes longer because they are able to check in and see if everything's okay, and know that if that person falls or maybe has an issue, that they can call on that device to call authorities to come help them out?
I think it definitely improves response time. So I think in a way it's really useful. Like it's all about that. The crux of it is convenience versus privacy.
Well, it's convenience and safety.
Right.
Because we're kind of bringing that in here too.
The thing is, safety. I would say like it's like a three-way fight because privacy is one thing, because in a way like when something terrible happens, you're wishing that's the one time that the people that you don't want, getting into your business are getting into your business because you want them to respond faster in that situation. It's really just depending on what happens. I think it's like extremely situational on, given the circumstance. But I think most people don't want to, they don't want to hear, I don't know. Do you want the government knowing that you ordered like 7 Domino's pizzas because you just were like feeling it, like, do you want that? Or do you want the police to be able to respond if you yell out help too many times? Like, or if Alexa is responding to you saying help, 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 I didn't get that. Or, like,
yeah,
I guess what do we do in that situation? And just in my opinion, though, I just think that its usefulness, I don't think the privacy is as important as the convenience that we can get out of it and the good that can happen from it. I think there's a lot to it because, you could bring up the same type of arguments for this with GPS on phones because people have been, that's been recent too.
Yeah.
Where people, either stalking individuals, that's a huge concern. But, say, for example, an elderly patient has a cell phone on them with GPS tracking, or like a band, whatever,
And it's somebody who's known to wander.
Right. And so it helps them in that situation. But, we don't want it to be like, oh, you found out that I was going to Subway, 3 times in the same week. And it's like...
And you're following me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that, but I think that's just technology. That's just the dangers of technology in general, honestly.
Yeah. And it seems like it's almost like once we have climbed certain hills or mountains, once the technology is out there, once Alexas are in the home, we have achieved that kind of as humanity. There really isn't a going back.
Yeah, because would you want to change? Like, once you get used to certain things, like, I don't know about you guys, but I never want to go back to dial-up. Like, just because like, people always make arguments like, oh, we've always done it this way. Well, it's like, there's certain things you don't keep doing. I mean, you might not default to it. I mean, of course, if you didn't have internet and you had, like, an AOL 4.0 CD on you, you probably would resort to it, or you'd play pinball. But, like... in this situation, I don't see it as necessarily... I think that the very small number of cases where a problem would occur, just by the nature of media, it will blow things out of proportion. Like, the amount of good, if you looked at it, just like... I guess not even... The wrong word would be objectively, because I don't want to use the word objectively. But if you just measured the amount of potential good out of potential risk... I feel like the benefits outweigh the risk in this situation because I think there's enough like security on like the amount of security that you have to use for even computers. I mean, you can take it the same way as a dot. And I think that most people would say there's the good of computers outweighs the bad. So we have to also say, for an at-home device such as the dot, that the benefits definitely outweigh the risk. And in fact, in this situation, it saved a life. It definitely health wise, it has potential. It has huge potential to change the game. Like we've always talked about telehealth, and for those of you that don't know, telehealth is usually historically has been done with like telephones where like you're calling in and you're checking in. Like it's like usually outpatient, as not necessarily done within the hospital.
Hmm.
Might be a nurse or potentially in some cases the doctor might come to an individual. But in this situation, it can change the game. Just imagine like you're in a small town, you don't have a huge facility, you may have like a smaller hospital, and the amount of people that can actually be, maintained in the hospital, not everyone wants to go to the hospital, but this can change it. You can actually have it so where you're monitored, but only certain things monitored. So I guess it's a lot of control. Like, I don't know if people necessarily want a huge camera on them all the time going, oh, they just, Sally just tripped, so now we have to send 911. I
Yeah.
think that that has its own merit in a way, but I think that like sometimes it's an overreaction, and we have to decide we have to decide as a society what is acceptable in terms of an electronic reaction to something, because you might have some false alarms go off.
So do you think that we kind of vote with our dollars in that way? Like, if products are put out that kind of maybe become more and more invasive into our lives. So let's even compare just an audio version of the Echo Dot that could be listening, or the Google Home could be listening at different times. Listening. Now we bump it up to like an Echo Show or different camera devices that people may install in their homes and connect to this that may be always recording. You can set them to different settings where they only record certain times or they are always recording.
Yeah.
Um, if people are purchasing these devices, are they kind of, if enough people purchase these devices, are they kind of in effect making the decision for all of us that these devices are going to be out there and
I, I
continue to
think
be
I think
produced?
so. I think so because I honestly feel like privacy is close to dead. We as a society are so online with everything now that just trying to bring people towards, more like if you want respected privacy, there's people that cover up their webcams because they actually believe that, and this is not false, but there's like certain instances of people's webcams that have been turned on remotely,
Mm-hmm.
or, other people watching someone else through, um, other means. But it's that's also a scary thought for people because they don't want people infringing on anything that they're doing. But at the same time, we want to share everything on social media and say this is what I'm doing. I took and every single photo that you take out location has coordinates to it. Like you can just geo data connected to all those imagery. You can, and even now if you go into like the Apple app for pictures, it'll tell you exactly where you took that photo at, like which city,
Mm-hmm.
where at. So it's kind of it's interesting to see that because I think we already are in this transitional phase where privacy is just not really a thing anymore. Like it's important, absolutely, but like uh, our public lives, just not very private anymore. Like people, your name probably goes through multiple computers a day, according to the movie's Hackers. So, it goes through probably like multiple computers, multiple servers every single day.
So do you see us kind of continuing along that route?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's not enough people that share that concern for it to change. I think that generally, we like to, we don't think, I think a lot of people think in terms of there's so many people, what's the likelihood of it happening to me? It's very minuscule,
Mm-hmm.
someone doing that, like hacking my devices. And the amount of people, you just look at the amount of people that have Windows Internet Explorer, right? Like, and you're just like, oh gosh, why are you using this? Or like, they don't have any sort of antivirus software installed or anything of that sort. I think that people just need to really decide if they value that privacy, because then it requires kind of taking a huge step back from technology, because all of our technology is essentially moving towards integration and more cohesive society. Like it's not privacy. There's very little private features left. I mean, remember when the first some of the iPhones came out? Like a new iPhone comes out, and there was problems of people being able to respond initially to text messages on the initial pop-up screen without having to input your password or use your finger to unlock Real ID. So you could respond, you could quick reply. And so, although this was used to, a lot of people suspect this as more of an emergency text response system, it still, was not used as intended. So I think that, there's intended design versus what actually occurs. And I think developers can't really always plan for that. I think people always will use something, like if it can do something in a certain way, they'll find out how.
Yeah, so kind of a trial and error. So I think it's interesting to talk about this stuff, and it will be interesting to see, because I kind of personally believe, like you, Skylar, that we are going to continue heading that way, where we will see these devices kind of, in essence, becoming more and more invasive in our lives, so that they can become more and more convenient in our lives. And we will continue to see trial and error with devices being used in unintended ways, and it may lead to positive outcomes like it did in the case of this article, or it may lead to negative outcomes like we talked about in the case where phone GPS can be used for stalking. But it's important for us to know about all this, because I think the real problem with this whole issue would be to live in the world today and not know that this stuff is happening, or not know that this stuff is around.
And there's so many people that don't. I mean, there's so many people that aren't thinking about it either. It's almost like a trusting thing. It's like a trust exercise with developers. But individuals that, study a lot in terms of, even if you go into computer science or in IT, you already know that, security is, I mean, security is only as strong as the person working at that company. And even then, it doesn't necessarily stop things from happening. Identity theft is a huge problem, and I just think that that's also a potential of things happening as we move forward. Just the amount of the abuse that could happen as a result of it is what's kind of scary. But I think that despite those cases, people will still move forward on because convenience. It's like we're tired of, people love convenience. They'll pay for convenience. Like if it's fast, if it's easier, if they don't have to worry about anything, they're gonna buy it. They're probably gonna buy it. I'm probably gonna buy it.
Agreed. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We're going to kind of continue to throw these up as we come across articles that we see being kind of a cool integration between health and other things that we find interesting. Let us know what you think. We really do want this to be a conversation. Do you see Echo devices, Google Home devices, as inherently a bad thing that is too invasive? Or do you see them as ultimate good, a thing that can help us advance, I guess, as humankind, and help keep people out of trouble, like one did earlier? Or is it somewhere in between? And let us know why you think the way you do. And if you have any
submit
personal
to
experience.
our robot overlords, for sure.
Yes,
and,
let's get more data out there.
Understand that when the robot apocalypse happens, that you want to be on the side of King Google. So.
King Google. Well, thank you guys. You can please subscribe below, leave your comments below, and check us out on Facebook as well. We'll continue to upload tons of new video content. We'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.